cold ocean enveloped Jack Callahan as he descended into its silent depths. Early morning light pierced the blue-green water in pale shafts, illuminating the rocky seabed below. His dive light swept methodically across patches of twisted seaweed and sand as he moved with practiced precision. Each breath from his oxygen tank released a stream of bubbles that rushed toward the surface, the only sound in this underwater world. 4 years. 1,461 days of this. Each day began with a sliver of hope and ended with the familiar crushing weight of disappointment. He was searching for his daughter, Mia, who had vanished without a trace from these very waters at the age of 19. Mia Callahan had been a rising star, newly qualified for the Olympic team in open water swimming. Her dedication was a force of nature. She'd trained in these waters for years, her route a grueling 4-mile round trip from Crescent Bay Pier, around the distant blue water buoy, and back. For most of those years, Jack had followed alongside her in his boat, the Sea Warden, a proud, silent guardian. But in the 6 months before she disappeared, she had insisted on swimming alone. "Dad, I need to do this by myself," she told him, her tone firm but gentle. "The Olympics won't have a chaperone boat. I need to build mental toughness. Wait for me at the dock. I'll be fine." He'd reluctantly agreed, respecting her fierce independence while silently worrying every minute until she returned, her bright swim cap a welcome beacon on the horizon, except for that one day when the horizon remained empty. The frantic hours that followed were a blur of calls to the Beach Rescue Authority, organizing search parties and scanning the coastline until his eyes burned. As the owner of a diving company, Jack knew these waters, the currents, the hidden reefs, the treacherous spots, better than anyone. Yet his expertise had yielded nothing. After weeks, the official search was called off. The most likely scenario, they said, was a tragic drowning. The ocean claimed swimmers, sometimes even elite ones. But Jack wouldn't stop looking. He needed to find his daughter to bring her home. Today, something had drawn him farther from Pelican's reach than usual, a restless instinct he couldn't ignore. As his oxygen tank ran low, he began his reluctant ascent, realizing with a jolt how far he'd drifted from his boat. Fatigue, a deep, bone-weary fatigue burned in his muscles as he swam toward the Sea Warden. Halfway there, he spotted a buoy, not the familiar blue water buoy, but a different one, older and rarely checked. Grateful for the rest, he swam to it and grabbed its rusted metal frame. As he caught his breath, he happened to look up. Something was strapped to its center. Curiosity piqued, Jack hauled himself onto the buoy's platform, his wet hands slipping on the corroded metal. It was a GoPro camera in a waterproof housing, its surface scarred by sea and weather. He recognized the bulky high-end model immediately. It was the same one he'd bought for Mia, insisting on the best protection money could buy. A coincidence, he thought, a pang of memory twisting in his gut. But as he turned the case over, his heart nearly stopped. There on the back was a familiar sticker, a small blue dolphin with the letters MC beneath it. His hands trembled. This wasn't just any camera. It was Mia's. He fumbled with the latches, his fingers clumsy with shock. The GoPro inside was intact, though the battery was long dead. With a surge of adrenaline that banished all fatigue, he swam back to his boat, the camera clutched like a holy relic. His diving companion, an old friend who often accompanied him on these futile searches, watched him climb aboard. "Look what I've found," Jack said, his voice thick with an emotion he hadn't felt in years. Jack's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. He dialed Detective Morgan, the officer who had patiently handled his calls for 4 years. "It's Jack Callahan," he said, his voice tense with a mixture of excitement and dread. "I found something. Mia's GoPro camera. It was strapped to a buoy miles out from her usual route. There was a moment of stunned silence on the line. "You found her camera? After all this time?" Morgan sounded genuinely shocked. "I'm in a meeting that starts in 10 minutes. I can't meet you, but you can drop it off at the station. I'll alert our forensic tech, Ethan Parker. He'll see what he can recover." 20 minutes later, Jack was in a small, sterile lab filled with computers. Ethan Parker, a man in his 30s, extended a hand. "Detective Morgan briefed me. Let's see what we've got." Ethan worked methodically, first photographing the camera, then carefully removing the memory card. "The card looks intact," he said, inspecting it under a magnifier. "No major corrosion. That's a good sign." He inserted it into a specialized reader. "We'll make a forensic copy first to preserve the original data." Jack stood tensely as the files transferred. After a few minutes that felt like an eternity, Ethan opened the first video file. The screen filled with Mia's face, and Jack's knees nearly buckled. She was alive, smiling, her wet hair plastered to her head as she adjusted the camera. "Testing, testing." Her voice came through the speakers, slightly distorted by wind, but unmistakably hers. "Perfect spot to capture my training today." The next clip showed her treading water, talking directly to the camera. "Day 42 of Olympic training," she said, slightly breathless. "Coach says my endurance is improving, but my turns still need work." She sighed, her expression suddenly serious. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm cut out for this. The pressure is intense. If I even make it to the games, will I just embarrass myself?" Jack's throat tightened. He'd never known she harbored these private doubts. Suddenly her attention shifted. "Oh, hello," she called out to someone off camera. A young man swam into frame, his face partially obscured by water droplets on the lens. "Hey there," the young man said, his voice friendly. "Didn't expect to see anyone else out this far." "Just training," Mia replied. "I'm Mia." "Martin," he said, "you're really pushing it. I'm training for the Olympics." "No way." "That's amazing." Martin sounded genuinely impressed. "Are you going to be famous?" Mia laughed. "Hardly. I'm new to the elite level, still flying under the radar." "Well, you look like a pro to me," Martin said. "Hey, want a race? Just for fun? I used to compete in college." "You're on," Mia said, smiling. They swam out of frame. For half an hour, the camera recorded only the gentle movement of the ocean. Then, in the distance, a speedboat appeared. The fisheye lens of the GoPro distorted the perspective, but the camera captured the lower half of the boat, including what appeared to be a company logo on its hull. "Can you enhance that logo?" Jack asked. Ethan paused the video and zoomed in. The image remained somewhat blurry, but the logo was just clear enough. A stylized wave with some text beneath it. Jack snapped a picture of the screen with his phone. They continued watching, but Mia never returned. "The logo is from Ocean Elite Marine," Ethan said after a quick reverse image search. "They're a local company that provides boats and equipment for water sports." Jack nodded, feeling both hope and dread mingling in his chest. He thanked Ethan and left, glancing at his watch. He was late for a charity event, a reunion lunch for former athletes where he'd promised to give a speech. The sports club center was bustling. Jack delivered his prepared speech about water safety on autopilot, his mind replaying the footage. Afterwards, he joined a table of old friends from his own swimming days. "Listen, something incredible happened today," he said, his voice low. "I found Mia's GoPro camera." His friends stared in disbelief as he explained what he'd seen, showing them the picture of the boat logo on his phone. "That's Ocean Elite Marine," said Tom, a former teammate. "They sponsor a lot of our local athletes in the Olympic program. In fact," he added, gesturing across the hall, "they have a booth set up right over there." Jack's gaze followed. A sleek display booth with the Ocean Elite Marine logo stood against the far wall, staffed by 2 men. "I'm going to talk to them," Jack said, standing abruptly. He approached the booth with measured steps, trying to appear casual. "Good afternoon," the older of the 2 men greeted him. "Actually, I'm curious about your company," Jack said. "I understand you sponsor Olympic athletes. Do either of you know someone named Martin associated with your company?" The 2 men exchanged a quick, nervous glance, their smiles faltering. "Martin?" the older one repeated. "We might have several employees with that name. Do you have a last name?" Jack shook his head, then decided to take a risk. He showed them the screenshot of the boat. "I'm trying to identify this particular boat and possibly a young man named Martin who might have been using it." The reaction was immediate and unmistakable. Both men tensed. I'm not sure about that specific vessel," the younger man stammered. "We have quite a fleet, you see. If you need information about our boats, you should speak with the staff at the marina," the older one added quickly. "We're just here for marketing." Jack thanked them and walked away, his suspicions heightened. He glanced back and saw the younger staffer had stepped away, pacing anxiously with a phone pressed to his ear. Within moments, they began packing up their display materials, clearly preparing to leave in a hurry. Something wasn't right. His instincts, the same ones that had kept him alive during dangerous dives, were screaming at him to follow. He bypassed his friend's table and headed straight for the exit. Jack kept a careful distance behind the Ocean Elite Marine van as it wound through Crescent Bay's coastal roads. The rational part of his mind questioned what he was doing, but the father in him knew this was no coincidence. His phone rang. It was Detective Morgan. "Mr. Callahan, I've reviewed the footage," Morgan said without preamble. "We're heading to the marina now to investigate Ocean Elite Marine." "I'm already on it," Jack replied, keeping his eyes on the van. "I'm following 2 of their employees. They left the charity event suddenly after I asked about Martin." "Following them?" "Jack, that could be dangerous. They're acting suspicious." The van turned onto a side road, moving away from the main harbor. "They're not going to the marina. They're heading past the headland." "Share your location with me," Morgan instructed. "And Jack, be careful." The van turned down a narrow, unmarked road that Jack had never noticed before, ending at what appeared to be an abandoned marina. Jack parked out of sight and approached on foot, staying hidden. He watched as the 2 men from the event unloaded boxes and met with 3 other men at the dock. Just then, a large speedboat approached. 3 more men disembarked. "We need to move quickly," one of the newcomers said, his voice just loud enough for Jack to hear. "The boss is waiting on the yacht and he's not happy." Jack ducked behind a stack of old fuel barrels. From his hiding place, he heard another vehicle arrive, followed by male voices and the unmistakable, terrifying sound of women whimpering. "Get in the boat," a gruff voice ordered. "Keep your heads down and stay quiet." "Please," a female voice begged softly. "We've done everything you asked." Jack's blood froze. The sound of footsteps on the wooden dock was followed by the rumble of the boat's engine starting up. As it faded, he heard 2 of the remaining men conversing nearby. "How could this happen?" one said, his voice strained. "They've been safe for 4 years and now the police start sniffing around." "The boss is going ballistic," the other replied. "Said if we don't clean this up, we'll be joining those guys from last year at the bottom of the channel." Jack remained perfectly still as the men returned to their van and drove away. Standing on the abandoned dock, he stared out at the ocean. Mia hadn't drowned. She'd been taken. And from what he just heard, she might have been held captive for the entire 4 years. With shaking hands, he called Morgan. "I'm at an abandoned marina about 10 miles north of Crescent Bay," he said urgently. "I just witnessed what I believe is a human trafficking operation involving Ocean Elite Marine. They've kept girls for 4 years. I think my daughter might be one of them. Stay where you are, Morgan ordered. No, they're gone. We need to follow that boat. Meet me at the main marina. I know these waters. I can help track them. Jack's tires squealed as he pulled into the Crescent Bay Marina. Morgan was already there with police, harbor patrol, and members of the Coast Guard. They're taking them to a yacht somewhere offshore, Jack reported. I heard them say the boss is waiting on the yacht. A harbor patrol officer stepped forward. The vessel was last seen heading southeast. Its current speed suggests it's making for the Channel Islands area. That's where they're going, Jack said with certainty. Dozens of secluded coves. I need you to stay here, Morgan said. No way, Jack insisted. I know these waters better than anyone. There are underwater caves, hidden approaches. If Mia is on that yacht, I need to be there. Morgan hesitated, then nodded grimly. Fine. You can come on the lead boat with me, but you follow orders. The boats cut through the water at top speed. After nearly an hour, the radio crackled again. This is Air Unit 1. We've spotted a crossover boat approaching a large yacht, sending coordinates. As they neared, they reduced speed. Jack grabbed binoculars. A sleek white yacht sat on the water, the crossover boat now secured alongside. He watched as figures, 3 women in dark clothing, were escorted below deck. Could one of them be Mia? Air Unit 1 reports they appear to have spotted us, the radio announced. The yacht is now getting underway. Full speed, Morgan commanded. As they closed the distance, the crossover boat suddenly detached and headed directly for them, 2 armed men on its deck. They're going to intercept us, the captain warned. Air Unit, what's happening on the yacht? Morgan called. The women are being brought back up. They're putting on diving equipment. They're going to put them in the water, Jack yelled, alarm shooting through him. There are underwater caves all through this area. If they get in there, they could disappear completely. Shots rang out from the crossover boat. Jack ducked as the tactical team returned fire. Through the chaos, he kept his binoculars fixed on the distant yacht. They're going in, he shouted. The women are going overboard with diving gear. The police divers prepared to enter the water. I'm going too, Jack declared. Absolutely not, Morgan grabbed his arm. Those caves are a maze, Jack argued desperately. Your divers don't know them. If Mia goes down there, I might never find her again. In the confusion of the firefight, Jack seized his opportunity. He grabbed a diving mask, fins, and a spare breathing apparatus. While the officers focused on the crossover boat, he slipped over the side and into the churning water. The cold shocked his system, but instinct took over. Taking a deep breath, he dove beneath the waves, swimming with powerful strokes toward the only thing that mattered. Underwater, a slow-motion struggle was unfolding. The police divers had intercepted the kidnappers, who were armed with spear guns. Each of the 3 women was handcuffed to one of the men. Jack, without a tank or a weapon, couldn't help directly. He surfaced, gasping for air, and made a split-second decision. He swam for the yacht. He hauled himself onto the deck and found a rack of spear guns in the dive prep area. As he grabbed one, he heard the click of a gun hammer behind him. "Don't move," a young man's voice slurred. Jack turned. It was Martin from the GoPro footage, drunk, holding a handgun. "You took my daughter," Jack said, his voice low and dangerous. "We're making her a better future," Martin mumbled, swaying. "My father, he loves athletic young women. He could make her successful." "Martin, what the hell are you doing?" A sharp voice cut through the tension. An older man, clearly Martin's father, appeared on deck dressed in an immaculate white shirt, a gun pointed at Jack. "My useless son can't do his job properly." He turned his cold gaze on Martin. "You talked to the police, didn't you? I know you always wanted one of my girls." "I didn't say anything," Martin protested. "It doesn't matter now." The man, Grant Whitmore, said, turning back to Jack. Your search ends here. He raised his gun. In that split second, 2 shots rang out. Martin fired his gun, hitting his father. Simultaneously, Jack fired the spear gun. The spear, no longer slowed by water, flew erratically and embedded itself in Martin's shoulder. As Grant crumpled to the deck, he managed to fire his own weapon. Searing pain erupted in Jack's leg. Despite the agony, Jack hobbled to the edge of the yacht and dove back into the water, a trail of blood marking his path. He swam toward the struggle. He saw Mia still fighting against the man who held her. The kidnapper saw him coming and raised his own spear gun. Just as he fired, a police diver tackled him from behind, sending the spear wide. With the last of his strength, Jack reached them, yanking the man's dive regulator from his mouth. The man panicked, loosening his grip. The police diver quickly cut through the handcuffs, finally freeing Mia. Jack's vision darkened. The last thing he saw before consciousness slipped away was Mia's face, her eyes wide with recognition as she reached for him. He awoke on a stretcher in a Coast Guard vessel. Mia, he croaked. Dad, I'm here. She was at his side, a blanket over her shoulders, her face thinner but alive. Real. You found me, she sobbed, taking his hand. Detective Morgan approached. You're one hell of a stubborn man, Callahan. We got them. Grant Whitmore, owner of Ocean Elite Marine, is dead. His son, Martin, is in custody. This thing is bigger than we thought. The FBI is getting involved. He turned to Mia. Can you tell us what happened? Mia drew strength from her father's presence. Martin seemed so friendly, she began. He offered me a ride back. They drugged me. When I woke up, I was locked in a room with 2 other girls. Whitmore said he'd make my Olympic dreams come true if I cooperated. When I refused, he threatened you, Dad. He said you'd have accidents, a fatal diving incident, so I stopped fighting. As the boat docked, ambulances waited. Mia clung to Jack's hand as they were separated for transport. I should have been braver, she wept. You survived, Jack managed. That's what matters. And it's a good thing you forgot that camera. Tears welled in Mia's eyes as she nodded, understanding the impossible miracle that had led to her rescue. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart, Jack replied, his voice breaking. I never stopped looking. As the ambulance doors closed, Jack caught a final glimpse of his daughter standing on the dock, surrounded by police. Despite everything, she stood tall, her swimmer's shoulders straight and proud. The path ahead would be long, but for the first time in 4 years, Jack felt truly alive. His daughter was safe, she was free, and whatever came next, they would face it together.